Does your father take all of his visitors hostage? He does not have many visitors from outside the desert. Oliver replied, looking at the black-haired fox through the bars of an underground cell. And you are not a hostage, you are my friend. And a friend of my father's, remember. If you were a hostage, you would be in the cells in the heights of the fortress. Unless you are a bird, and then you would be down here. Or a prisoner of war, then you would be in the prison of glass with the scorpions. It is good to know I am welcome. Xion said sarcastically as she thought of how terrible it would be to be held in a prison of glass in the middle of the desert. Don't worry, father will tell them you are his friend, then they have to let you out. Sand began to swirl around Oliver, and Xion materialized, placing his arm around Oliver's shoulder. Father, this nice woman came to visit you, Oliver said as he looked up at his father with a warm smile. Oliver, you are a prince now, you cannot play with strangers, Xion said as he returned Oliver's smile with equal warmth after realizing Oliver was unharmed. She is not a stranger, father, she is your friend from the forest. Xion looked through the cell bars and saw Xion sitting with her back against the wall, knees up, smiling and waving at him playfully. Oliver, go play please. Xion and I need to talk, Xion said sternly. Bye. Oliver sighed disappointingly to Xion before changing to a fox and scampering off. He stopped at the doorway and barked over his shoulder. Let's play again later, that's a promise. Xion replied as Oliver ran out into the hall. What are you doing here? Xion asked pointedly. Nice to see you too, Xion replied as she got to her feet and grabbed the bars of the cell door. She leaned on them and greeted Xion with a smile. Xion was flustered by her forwardness and a little annoyed, but it was hard to pretend he was not happy to see her. It is good to see you, Xion. But why have you come? Xion replied softly as he went to open the door to the cell. Xion turned away from him quickly and giggled to herself. You owe me breakfast, she jeered as she turned on her heel back to him and gave a deep sigh. And I have grown tired of the men in the forest. So you have come for the men of the desert? Xion replied spitefully. No, I have come for you, idiot. Xion barked as she gave him a sharp glare. What makes you think I need a vixen from the forest? Xion snapped back. Well, first of all, I slipped past all your guards and spent a full afternoon with your son before anyone realized I was not a fox from your clan. And as distinct as the desert fox are, you would think it would be hard to mistake a fox with curly black hair and green garb as a desert fox. You spent an afternoon with Oliver. Why? Xion demanded as he grabbed her arm. I was looking for you, and he had your eyes. There was a pause as the two locked eyes, and Xion's demeanor changed from defensive to longing. She leaned in and looked up at Xion, adding playfully as she gently traced the space between his pecs. All the king's guard, and all the king's men, couldn't keep me out of your den. Xion released his grip, and Xion wrapped herself around him and pulled him close. Xion couldn't help but be swept up in the heat and bubbly feelings he saw in her eyes as his hands came to rest on her waistline. The two shared a deep kiss. Xion, I am happy to see you, but you cannot stay, Xion said as his cold face gave way to a sheepish grin. Why not? You need someone you can trust, Xion. Besides, I promised Oliver. You wouldn't make me a liar now, would you? I have Xion and Jack for that, Xion protested. Oh really, you sleep with Xion and Jack? Xion scoffed as she let him go and took a step back. No, but the hawks watch my door, and the scorpions watch my home, and they are more than capable of protecting Oliver and I. Oh, the scorpions I slipped past, and the hawks that watched a stranger play with your son all day. He needs to learn to fight, by the way. I will teach my son to fight in time. Xion balked back once again, becoming slightly annoyed. Oh really? Xion giggled as she mocked him with a low bow. No disrespect, your majesty, because I agree you are rather skilled with your sword. But when it comes to claws and fangs, I am more than willing to bet I can outmatch you. You think you can beat me hand to hand? Xion growled. Care to find out? Azioi replied, baring her fangs. Xion blinked to use the power of his eyes to read her movements, but before he could open them, he felt a pinprick. Azioi had a claw pressed gently against his throat, just enough to draw blood. "You really shouldn't take so long to blink," Azioi said with a grin as she retracted her claws. "Your son has some real potential if you let him learn from the right people." Xion was stunned. He hadn't heard her move at all. If it was not for the drop of blood he felt making its way down his neck, he would never have believed anyone could be that fast. "You know, he asked me if I was his mother today." Xion's heart broke for his son now as Ozioi's words cut him deep, and she wrapped herself around him again, this time, getting nose to nose. "I know I could never replace her, but I can try if you would let me. We could really be something. You and I. You can teach the boy." Xion replied, shifting his gaze to the floor, ashamed of the way he longed for her. "And what about us? We will see," Xion replied with a smile. Ozioi's desire for him was almost tangible, but when Xion held her he could not shake the feeling it was somehow a betrayal of Bonnie. Xion was struck as he returned his gaze to Ozioi's, expecting to feel the rush of bubbly warmth from her again. But as their eyes met, Xion could not read anything at all. "Sire." Buse entered the room now, his menacing demeanor interrupting their tender moment. "There is another prisoner that requires your attention." Xion turned to Azioi now with a look that demanded explanation. "I may have had a bit of help getting in," Azioi replied to his stern look. Xion turned from her and stormed out. "Xion, wait." Azioi called after him. "I met him in the tavern. He is just an old fox from the shores of the frozen north," Azioi explained as she screamed behind him. "He said he owes a debt to the Pirate King, and he needed to steal something from you." She continued, "Is that what all that was just now? Stalling for him, hoping he would have time to get what he came for and escape." Xion barked, fearing the Pirate King had sent an assassin for him. "No. I overheard him talking in a tavern about coming here, and I saw an opportunity to see you again, and I took it, that's all," Azioi replied, hurt by the suggestion. "So you helped him come here for what? My head." "What? No. I told you I came here to see you, and he came for your sword." "My sword, right. And I had full confidence in your ability to keep it from him, or I would have never helped him," Azioi said, trying to reassure Xion. "Then why help him at all? Why not come on your own and wait for me to return?" "Because I wanted to look behind the curtain. I wanted to see if you really believe all the things you told me, or if this place was no better than the aristocracy of the forest. I was not just playing with Oliver, Xion. I have been watching the people who come and go, listening to conversations, because I wanted to know if you were worth the pursuit." Azioi blushed, for what Xion could tell was the first time in a very long time, as she finished her sentence. He turned from her and continued the climb to the fortress heights. Xion burst through the door of the cliff-top prison and grabbed up the man, an old red-headed fox with blue eyes, and shook him hard. "Why are you here?" he growled as he slammed the fox against the wall. "Please, my lord, be merciful," the old fox pleaded. "Why did the Pirate King send you after my sword?" Xion barked back. "My sons. The Pirate King has my boys. He imprisoned them for my debt. He said if I stole the sword of the goddess from you, then we would be even." Xion relaxed his grip now. "He sent you after my sword, and nothing more." "Only your sword, my lord, I swear it." Xion thought of his father, and how he had spent the last years of his life fleeing the Pirate King. Had the word of the Desert Union really traveled that far? Word travels quickly on wind and wing. But to think that people in the far west had already been told of Xion and the sword. "Buse, find this man a home. See to it he is given gold and food." "My lord," Buse said with a questioning look as Xion turned his back on the old man. "It is time the Pirate King and I meet. I will see to it your debt is settled personally, old man. I am going with you," Azioi said as Xion turned to leave. "No, I cannot have you as a liability," Xion replied. "A liability?" A few moments ago I had claws at your throat, and now I am a liability. Xion said, outraged at the very suggestion. Fine. But I am not responsible for your safety. Xion said sarcastically with a dismissive shrug. Trust me, I can handle myself. Xion snapped back. Xion and Jack came into the armory as Xion and Xion were preparing for their journey. Xion raised his eyebrow as he turned his head from Xion to Xion. I am sorry, my lord, the strays do not normally follow me home, I swear. He said with a grin. You must be Xion. Xion said with a jovial smile. You'll be happy to hear that Tulam came with me. She went north to look for you. Xion's eyes widened a bit as Jack pushed past him. Xion, you just returned, and you are setting out already. Yes, Jack. How goes the digging? Xion asked as he scanned his surroundings for eavesdroppers. Well, frankly, the rabbits are getting tired of your orders. Jack replied. Double their gold. Xion replied. Are you sure, my lord, that is? Trust me, Jack, we can afford it. As you wish. Jack replied as he changed to a rabbit and hopped off. Xion, Xion, and Xion set off for the frozen north. As they passed the Temple of Sententia in the northern desert, Xion stopped to marvel at the large statue. This is the Temple of Sententia in the desert, huh? Why is it so big? Her temple in the south is so small, few more than 10 people at a time can fit in it in human form. That is because the people of the forest mostly worship either Sophia, Trua, or wine. Xion replied. The southern wolf tribe is a bunch of godless heathens, even Tulam. Xion asked playfully, remembering the stories Tulam told of the noble Xion, especially Tulam. Xion replied as he gave a flustered blush. It is a shame that someone so beautiful and talented as she is wastes her time waiting for a mutt like you. Xion said with disgust in her tone. Call me a mutt again, vixen. Xion muttered. Call me a vixen again, mutt. Xion barked back. The two stopped now and stood in animal form, baring their fangs and snarling at each other. Hey! Xion gave a low bark, causing them both to flatten their ears and keep walking. So, my lord, why are we going to the frozen north? Xion asked as the sand around them slowly turning to cold grey stone as the trio continued. We are going to warn my sister of my intentions to meet with the Pirate King. My father fled the north because of the Pirate King, and I doubt he will be happy to see me taking me home to meet the family. Don't you feel like this is a little soon? Xion teased. Xion smiled as Xion began to laugh heartily. So why did we bring the dog along? Xion asked as her ears went flat, hearing Xion's laugh. Hey! Xion growled at the slur. I came to consult the northern elders and inform them of all that has transpired these last months. It wouldn't hurt for you to meet with them as well, Xion. The fangs and claws of the north could become a powerful ally, and they hold the wolves in high regard. Yes, the high and mighty fangs and claws of the north. Xion said sarcastically. Rulers of the greatest expanse of cold nothing the world has ever seen. Besides, it would be irresponsible to let my king go on a journey with a vixen he just met. Xion added spitefully. I thought I met your high council in the desert. Xion interjected, trying to avoid another dust-up. Those were the desert elders. The high council of the north are the highest court in wolf society. They settle disputes among the clans and prevent fights over hunting grounds and territories. There is a wolf among them with the gift of prophecy, and I want her to look into your future, Xion. So is it true what they say about the north? Xion asked, recalling the tales and whispers from the forest. There is no hunting of white fur or feather, and only warmbloods are allowed. It is true fighting among the clans is forbidden in the snowy mountains, and many clans are governed by councils here on this mountain as a result, not just the wolves. Xion replied. There are a few clans of white feather that call this mountain home, but other than that, yes, it is nothing but clans of fur. They walked for another 3 days before coming near the place Snow described to Xion prior to leaving the desert. After searching for a while among the snowdrifts, they found the northern fox village. I am looking for a fox called Lily. Xion yelled over the howling winds. An old, Long-haired Fox cringed like Xion's voice hurt his ears and pointed over his left shoulder to a wooden wall built into the side of an embankment. Xion knocked on the door, and Snow answered, heavily pregnant and surprised to see him. She looked for Oliver before she let the motley crew in out of the cold and closed the door behind them.